This is the follow-up to the Klong video. If you haven't watched it yet, go do that so that this one makes sense. The hallmark of a good story in a fictional world is to have the world be well built. A story that integrates the world into its plot is much better than one that doesn't. It's a multi-layered process that will take time, but will be very much worth it. As with Klonging, you have to get inspiration for your world. What genre will it be in? Who's reading it? Are you related to Jim Theus? What time period is it in? How will it be seen by the characters? There are several genres to choose from. The Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, Return of the King, The Hobbit, and The Silmarillion. Subgenres worth noting include slash fiction and Twilight. There's also sci-fi. I'll cover that at the end of the video. The first thing to do is build the world that it is on. This generally means a planet, but you can be creative by using a geometric shape on a plane, such as a square or a triangle. If you are doing a planet, make sure to get the surface features right. Because of plate tectonics, all of the mountains are in one long chain that spans the globe, even if it goes underwater. A single ring of hills always surrounds mountain ranges, and the rest of the land is flat until it reaches the sea. Only flat land borders seas. Ever. Cliffs are always formed by magic. Speaking of magic, if you have magic, you can ignore all of these rules because I'm sure you can think of a reason to. Now that you have the land put together, figure out what's on that land. First, put a desert in that covers half of the planet's land, with random rainforests scattered throughout. Then put as many trees as the rest of it can hold. Then drop some snow on the trees at the poles, but not the deserts. Rivers are the lifeblood of civilizations, so you need at least 2, but not more than 6. Start in the mountains and go from there. Rivers either go in a straight line down to the sea, or take a path that has multiple hairpin turns, forms multiple oxbow lakes, and goes to the farthest coastline from its source. It will probably have at least 13 civilizations on it, all with their own cultures. All of these cultures will live in harmony until your story starts, or soon before it. The wildlife heavily influences the people there. It's exactly the same as it is on Earth, unless it's relevant to the plot. Now that you have your complete planet, it's time to put people on it. The geography and wildlife is cool and all, but the people are even cooler. The first thing you want to consider is what races there are. There are always humans, but you have a truly massive range of options beyond that. Elves, dwarves, and orcs. If you aren't satisfied with those choices, you can always add crossbreeds. If you aren't satisfied with that, you aren't fit to be a world builder. If you decide that in spite of your failure, you want to add races that aren't good because Lord Tolkien didn't write about them, then add just literally everything from Magic the Gathering. Scatter those races wherever you'd like, and then immediately forget about them except in passing mentions. This story is about humans, after all. The orcs, however, are to be mentioned because they are the enemies of the story. Now you have to build some cultures for your humans. To do this, just take 2 pre-existing cultures, mash them together, and give them a new name. For instance, take the Aztecs and Vikings. Put them together. You now have a totally unique culture that incorporates jaguars into their mythology, even though they ride on the waves. Where do these jaguars come into play? Doesn't matter. Put in some sea jaguars and you're good. If anybody asks about their evolutionary history, just say it was a bored wizard. They will definitely not question that. They eat chocolate and ritually sacrifice random citizens in a sort of traditional Viking funeral, because those 2 practices align perfectly and won't cause problems with anyone. If anyone criticizes you for being culturally insensitive or not knowing what you are talking about, especially when covering any culture outside of Western/Northern European culture that isn't yours, just say that they don't know as much as you and that they are idiotic bigots. Now for the best part of any story.
The magic!
Magic is what people read for, and it's also the only thing you should really focus on in depth. The most important part of magic is how cool it looks. Every magic system has to be flashy in some way, whether it be fireballs, a light show, or instantly turning everyone in the room into a clone of Derek Jeter. If it isn't big and or loud, it sucks because the audience has already lost interest. Once you have outlined all the cool and badass things your characters can do, there are two ways to go forward, both invoking less awesome magic. You can either make a soft magic system, where you just retroactively explain everything that happens, and sometimes not even doing that, or a hard magic system, where you outline everything the characters can do before you actually write the story and system. Soft magic systems are better because you can rip off Harry Potter, and any plot holes generated can just be explained away. Just be sure that there is some enchantment on the land that randomly gives characters amnesia to avoid the "why didn't they just do that" syndrome. But that's just a failsafe, because audiences are generally too stupid to pick this stuff up. Once they've bought your stuff, they've bought your stuff. If you are doing sci-fi instead of fantasy, or a mix of sci-fi and fantasy, then there are some things you must know. The first of these things is that you can have other races, because you most likely have aliens. They still have to be somewhat humanoid, or else the audience will be confused and think that they aren't smarter than humans, which they are always. Also, in sci-fi, humans are either a species that has transcended the universe with their spacecraft, or it's set in the present day with current technology. The near future's tech is hard to predict, but you know exactly how far future tech works. The speed of light doesn't apply. Messages are somehow sent across galaxies so that you can have a conversation in real time. Quantum computing allows this. This video is long enough for my editing, or lack thereof, so I'll just make the story section later.